Good afternoon, everyone. Hashtag Transform Your Teens, a webinar series brought to you by Invisalign. The Invisalign system is the world's most advanced technology for teeth straightening, and Invisalign believes in transforming smiles and changing lives. Hi, my name is Tiska Chopra, and I'm your host for the evening. I'm an actor, author, film producer, and most importantly, a mother. In my 26-year-long career, I've been part of theatre, movies, web series, and much more. From playing Anuradha Desai in Nandita Das's Firak, to playing a journalist in Oh My God, and the thoughtful mother in Tare Zameen, where I've grown as a person. But in this journey, one of the toughest parts was to strike a balance between work and my family. As my little one is growing up, there are so many questions that come to my mind. Some I have answers to, and some I don't. Well, with today's first Invisalign hashtag Transform Your Teens webinar, we openly discuss some of the topics we as parents may or may not be able to answer, and the topics that come to our mind, especially if your kids are in their teens. The teenage years can be turbulent ones, full of self-doubt and angst about the outside world, especially when they are bombarded with the notion of perfect faces and figures, and indeed lives. These are years when all they want to do is be their best, and for this, they need to be confident. So the theme for today's discussion is hashtag Transform Your Teens. I'd like to welcome our very first panelist for today, Dr. Aditi Govitrikar. The only Indian supermodel actor with a medical and psychologist qualification, Dr. Aditi Govitrikar is in the true sense a beauty with brains. A title given to her by many leading publications. She has won accolades such as the Glad Rag Supermodel and Mrs. World, a title that no other Indian has thus far. Dr. Aditi has acted in multiple Bollywood and Telugu films and has made her mark in some iconic music videos as well as commercials over the years. Delving into health and wellness, Dr. Aditi currently also practices as a certified psychologist or counselor and mentors corporates with transformational workshops to help everyone lead meaningful and fulfilling lives. She has also just launched a 21-day holistic wellness program for weight loss, toning, and mental well-being. She's currently pursuing her second master's in psychology from Harvard University. Actor, supermodel, doctor, psychologist, and a mother. Please welcome Dr. Aditi Govitrikar, and I must say, she's a superwoman.
Thank you so much, Tiska. That's really amazing. I really feel good about myself. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar.
And our second panelist for the evening is Dr. Amit Sachdeva. Dr. Amit Sachdeva is a well-known senior orthodontist with a rich and varied experience of over 23 years. He has been a promoter and a chief clinician for one of the most reputed dental chains in India. Dr. Sachdeva is one of the most experienced Invisalign providers, having Invisalign consultancy planning across the main metro cities of India, and has achieved the status of Diamond Invisalign provider. He owns his own private practice under the name of Dentex Dental and is consulting orthodontist for many top dental chains in India. And now we have a bunch of questions. Hi, Doctor.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
I'm sorry, Doctor.
I said hi, everybody.
Yes, indeed. Welcome on board the panel, both of you. And so I'd like to start with the questions. Our very first question is, in these changing times, do you think that individuality and self-introspection in teens is important? Also, how important is it for parents to build a good and strong bond or a relationship with their kids?
All right, so I think I'll go first with your permission, Dr. Amit.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll start with a favorite saying of mine. I have two children. One of them is now beyond a teenage. He's a young adult, and my son is 13. So I completely get the angst that parents go through raising teenage kids. So here's my favorite saying, which is by Aristotle, a Greek philosopher. He said that they think they know everything and are always quite sure about it. This, in fact, is why they overdo everything. Having said that, developmentally, psychologically, if you take a teenager or an adolescent, it's pretty much, it's the bridge between childhood and an adult. And that bridge, it can be shaky at times because they are also trying to find out who they are, what they stand for, what is it that they, and remember that most of the times adolescents are always idealists, whereas adults are realists, right? And that also creates some kind of a friction. It could, right? And the question that you asked is that whether it is important for them to introspect. I think it is extremely crucial that we as parents encourage this, because knowing oneself is the basis of confidence. And if we want our teenage kids to be confident, they have to introspect. And to get them into this practice, because given how much time they spend on screens and with friends, it is difficult for anybody today to spend time with themselves. So leading by example is the best thing that you do, and you take them into confidence to say that I'm going to sit for 10 minutes, 15 minutes with myself and explain the process of introspection to them and tell them why it is crucial for them. If they want to succeed in life, if they want to be happy in life, if they want to get to know themselves, then self-introspection is the tool that they can take to go forward in life. And for a teenage to listen to you as a parent, now again, being as a parent, I know how difficult it is to get anything across to the child, is to keep the communication channels open. So for which the crucial ingredients are mutual respect. If the child comes to you and discusses some idea, don't just brush it off saying that, this doesn't make sense, you should stick to whatever, you have in mind. So make sure that your dreams are not imposed on the child. The idea might be as crazy, but then remember that world has been changed by crazy people. So let the child discover who he is. Whatever the ideas are, listen to them, support them. And that will also help them establish their individuality. So communication is the key for a parent to allow the child to introspect and to develop his individuality.
I think that's a wonderful point that you brought out, Dr. Aditi. Dr. Sachdeva, let's touch upon individuality and the curbing of individuality, because I think what, as Dr. Aditi mentioned, that it's a bridge between adulthood and childhood, the teenage years. So they're asserting their individuality, and at the same time there are certain do's and don'ts which every family has. Perhaps times times which they need to check in and be at home, all of that. So how do we balance the whole thing with asserting their individuality, and where do we draw the line?
Okay. I think that's a very valid point that you actually kind of brought together. And let me be very frank with you. See, I, as an orthodontist, we are like the first doctor that influences the mind of a teenager completely. Because the child basically comes to us at the age of approximately 12 or 13 and then gets associated with us till the age of approximately 16. And we get to see them on a monthly basis continuously for a period of 3 years or so. That's the time where the child was obviously undergoing so many changes. So now coming to the individuality perspective, the way this guy said, let us say a patient comes to me for the first time when he's coming with a mother. My motive is always there. I always ask the question to the child, what his perception is about maybe his smile, or why has he come to me. But let me be very frank with you. Who's the mouthpiece? The mouthpiece is the mother. Before sometimes even the child begins to answer the question, the mother has the whole history, stated out in a particular kind of a manner. And I always make it a point to look at the child when I'm talking to him, because I want the answer from the child. Because remember that individuality, today a teenager is an individual. He is not an extension of his mother. Let's be very, very clear. The mother can only give a direction. She cannot dictate everything in front of the child. Today, individuality is very important for us. Let us take an example which is there. Let's say if I look back when I was a teenager, the only individual account that I had maybe was a joint bank account with my sister or with my father. That was the only account that I had. And today, if I'm going to ask a child, what is your account? He's actually going to tell me, Doc, are you talking about my social media account? Are you talking about my WhatsApp groups, the number of people that I have? And imagine they are actually living a life which has a page about them every day. They have to develop an individuality on a daily basis. It's their Facebook page. It is their Instagram page, which is changing so fast. Where do they get all these feelings for individuality on a daily basis? That can only come is if you are able to self-introspect yourself on a daily basis. How do you do that, which is there? You are having an achievement every day. You are having a new peer contact every day. You are having a talk with your parents every day. You need to have so many influencers around you, which is there, who are influencing the thought process which is coming in. And what is the mind doing? The mind is basically asking you to identify each and every achievement what you put in a day, and it tells you this is the right achievement, this is the right pair. But unfortunately, the way Dr. Aditi put across, they are lost in between that period of being a child and an adult. They are in their formative years. They do not understand exactly where they are. And obviously, the way she said that they know it all. You can never get anything into their mind as that you do not know it all, but yes, you need to understand. That is why we have the whole concept of influencers today. Who gets influenced the maximum? The formative people. The formative people are the teenagers. So they are the ones which get influenced. So let me be very frank with you, which is that I personally feel the parent should be the first influencer. The parent should be the first influencer for the child in any manner. You should be able to not direct the child, not dictate. That is really, really important. And the individualism which will shine out of this, because they get to see that instant gratification. They will see, oh great, I have achieved something. That's something which is going to get impinged into the mind, and that individuality leads to that rise of self-confidence. It's a feel-good factor. You get up every morning, you get a good feel factor, done. The boost on the individual part of it. So I personally feel, yes, individuality has become it's got a new definition today. And we all need to understand how that definition can be changed, what all barriers we can break, what all technologies we can bring into the child, which will actually help him build up these things and to bring about that instant gratification, which will bring about self-confidence.
Dr. and Aditi as well, I have another question which is sort of coming to my mind. My daughter's almost 8 years old, but I find that the kind of individuality that she is asserting at this point in time, which is a lot. I mean, I didn't have the good sense at the age of 8 to ask the kind of questions she asks. Do you also feel that while technically a teenager may be somebody that is turned 13 because there's the teen thing, but I feel that the feelings of being a teenager have actually moved a little earlier, like they're almost like 8 or 10, that they're almost behaving teen-like much earlier. Their growth or evolution has come a little sooner. Do you think?
Yes, that is true. It is also because of the exposure that these children right now are being given as opposed to how we were, what we did when we were kids. We obviously didn't have the world at our tips, right? But having said that, if I remember my childhood, my mother always used to say that, oh, when I was 10, I never did the things that you are doing, right? So it is a generational thing. Now, when these children have their children, they probably will be doing a lot more or a lot of things differently. So as we evolve as human beings, because the world is changing very rapidly. And 10 years from now, we will look at what we are doing today and scoff. We will say, oh my God, is that what we did 10 years back? So given that we will be saying this, so will the children. The exposure that they have today to things and the way the world is evolving and changing so rapidly, everything is going to change very fast. So yes, you're right that, things are getting a little preponed.
Yes. So Dr. Sachdev, sorry, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to answer your part of it, just adding 2 more points to it. See, we are in a very visual world, where, earlier the concepts used to be where we used to actually, read and learn. Today, we are actually seeing and learning. If you look at the attention span of a child, which is there, they have a very short attention span. They see everything around. Simultaneously, Tuska, to your specific question, let me be very frank with you, there is a lot behind because of the education system. Our education system today has become so intuitive. It has become actually asking the child to think. And let me be very frank with you, the child today, if you actually know the child's ability, a child before the age of 10 years can actually learn 4 languages. He can actually master 4 languages. That's the ability of the neurons we have. So it is the ability, and you show them something visually, they will start doing it. I have an 11-year-old boy. He's actually now way ahead. He's designing apps. What can I tell him, which is there? So he's at a very high level, which is there. So yes, it is just the ability is so fast. You show them, they'll grasp. You show them, they'll grasp immediately. It's extremely visual.
Yep. I sense that in my daughter as well with technology, particularly. They're like, get things like that. So doctor, that leads me to my next question. During teenage years, how important is it to praise your child's effort and so as to boost their confidence as individuals? How do we practice social skills around them?
Okay, so I'll just take the small part of Dr. Aditi with your permission, which is there, because this is like an experience, as I told you. It's a little continuation of what I basically said, where a mother is the mouthpiece for every single patient who comes in, So this is also out of experience what I've seen, because I've been practicing for the last 25 years. And, we used to have, so there is, I used to do those traditional braces earlier. And with traditional braces, there is a certain inbuilt limitation where the child has to spend a lot of time, on a brushing. Otherwise, there is going to be a lot of food accumulation, which is going to happen. And, how much effort he's going to put in, he's still going to land up with a little bit of marks and unhygiene. The hygiene is not going to be too great. So every time, the parents used to, whenever the child used to come earlier to me, initially in my years, I used to basically immediately say, oh, he's not brushed well. The minute I used to say that, the mother used to start off with, oh, I know he's an extremely irresponsible child. You should get into his room. His room is topsy-turvy, which is there. He's always on his video games, which is there. And I used to feel, excuse me, I was only talking about the hygiene. How come so many other things got related to his life? And imagine that kid is in a third environment. He doesn't want me to listen to about all, his aspects. He doesn't want me to listen to how good he is in studies and how good he is in math. That's when I actually started to look into the fact that how can I be diplomatic with parents? Again, so I said, okay, no, I think that hygiene is good, but there is still scope of improvement. Yes, doc, you are totally right. He has so many other places where there is so much of scope of improvement available. That used to be the answer for the mothers now. So the question was, now what do I do? So I said, okay, forget about it. Let me just shift to Invisalign. Invisalign doesn't have any limitations in relation to hygiene. You can be actually an integral part of the whole treatment. So we are a tripartite agreement now, which I have. So every patient that I make them sit, I said we are signing a tripartite agreement in which I am the one who's going to design your treatment. Your parents are the ones who's going to finance it. And you are the one who's going to be responsible for your child. Let me be very frank with you, which is there. Now when the patients come with Invisalign, the mother says, I never thought he is going to be so responsible. The same way you can actually put it was, I know he's going to be so responsible. I always knew he was a responsible child. The same thought could have been put in a more encouraging kind of a manner. So somewhere or the other, if we just take that small answer, the same way of putting it across in front of the child, that small encouragement at any point of a time during the day, even if he is slightly wrong, it will help a lot in breaking all the barriers. Because let me be very frank with you, it is basically a barrier which needs to be broken. The child will automatically take part in the conversation. If we lead him into that, let me be very frank with you, he will get into a different mold altogether. So I personally feel, yes, that small bit of encouragement, well laid out during the whole day will just will just give us the answer for the self-confidence for the teenagers.
Child, yes, indeed. Dr. Aditi?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you, Dr. Amit. What we need to realize is, especially the new age parents, is that be a parent to a child. Do not be a friend. Know the difference that you can be a friendly parent, but at the end of the day, the child has his or her own friends. What a lot of parents are doing right now is they try to befriend the child. As a result, they forget the discipline that needs to be provided to a child. The pruning which is required, especially during teenage time, is very, very crucial. So providing models of reasonable independence, but in a democratic manner, becomes the mainstay of a parent of a teenage. What do I mean by this? Is that there is a certain discipline that is required. And trust me, even if the teenage child is trying to rebel or back answering, if you stick your ground to certain rules, the child at the end of the day, at the bottom of their heart, they like it. They enjoy that because they might not acknowledge it at that time, but as they become adults, because they know that these are the things that are going to benefit them. So having that certain structure at home with certain disciplines which are not negotiable becomes a very crucial part of raising a teenage child. Now, the question was that praising a child, right? So again, like Dr. Amit said, that let's not go to the extreme to constantly bombard the child with, you're not doing this, this is not good, your hygiene is not good, your room is filthy. No, it has to be a balance. So be a friendly parent, praise the child. And it need not be, we always wait for such a big thing, even for ourselves, right? We are like, okay, we will be happy when we achieve this. Why? Why do we push it to the future? Who has seen future? Instead of doing that, look at yourself. So try to praise the child every single day. Look for small things, small achievements, because they are praiseworthy. When you do that, success is not built in a day, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. It is the culmination of every single day, what you do every single day that will lead you to bringing up a child who is a successful global citizen. So that becomes a very crucial point, that it need not be a big achievement, even small things, whatever they are doing. Even if they come up with a good idea, they put their books in place, they do their homework well, they've aced the test, they've achieved a skill, they've learned something new. Always praise the child and be very careful that you're not speaking in a derogatory manner in front of his or her friends or in public, because they are very sensitive. At this time, they're very vulnerable, which then for them, it is a big blow to their confidence. And here we are talking about building their confidence. So be very mindful. Even if there is something that you don't like that the child has done in public, take him aside. If you can wait when you go home, or if you can take him to another room, do that. But avoid shouting at the child or speaking in a derogatory manner. That becomes a very, very important point, so that you are boosting the child's confidence, the teenager's confidence. And even if we say that, the age is shifting, ultimately we are human beings. We like human touch. We like the physical touch. We like being praised. At the end of the day, if you think about it, if you ask a child to write a letter asking the child what is it that you love about the parent, they will never ever write that, oh, I got this iPad and this new gadget. They will always write about the things that you do for them, be it cooking a meal, be it taking them for a drive, or whatever it is. So try this experiment. Ask them to write a letter enumerating whatever, what they feel about, what is a good thing, what kind of parent you are, and you will see what unfolds. It's quite shocking, actually. It pleasantly surprises me every time I read a letter like that.
I'm going to put that to the test, Dr. Aditi. I'm definitely going to apply that. I'd like to know. I'll actually ask my daughter Tara to write both the good and bad points. A little two bits from my end about this. A small experiment that I did. I'm obviously taller than my child. So, whenever you're asking your child something, I think it's very important to be on an eye level, to develop eye contact with the child, and be not in a superior, inferior kind of structure, or them be standing and you be sitting, but like at eye level with the child. That I think works beautifully. And the other thing which I've realized is that when you're doing something that's non-negotiable, Dr. Aditi, you mentioned certain disciplines that should be non-negotiable. So if there's a non-negotiable discipline, for example, her homework. So I said, do you want to do your homework now in 15 minutes or after lunch in an hour and a half? So it's not negotiable that you have to do your homework, but I'm giving you two choices, which gives you agency and gives you the freedom to decide.
Gaining capacity,
yeah, the capacity to do it now or later. And I was amazed how well this simple technique, one, sitting with the child at eye level, and second, giving them the choice between two things, this or this, not that yes or no.
Absolutely.
So that worked really, really well also. Just my two bits as a mother that I found.
I think that's really nice. Just adding to this, is how we actually kind of now. So we both are talking more from a perspective of mothers. Somewhere or the other, I always feel connected to my patients. Because you're kind of you've seen them grow in a certain kind of a manner. So tomorrow, even if actually you can add that 10% bit of it, which may be adding to their self-confidence, I'm happy as a doctor. Okay, creating smile is my job, but if I actually can have, build up a little bit of self-confidence in that. So that's what we do with Invisalign nowadays, because we've actually eliminated the whole concept of coming for an appointment. So there is a lot of virtual care which happens where they actually kind of just click their photographs, with the aligners and send it across to us. And the minute they do that, so we have these virtual apps where we actually interact with them. And the best part of the apps is that you can actually kind of, interact with them with, high fives, and you can interact with them with, wow, you're doing great and everything. So these small things that we tell them during the treatment, which is there, it gives so much of encouragement. It's no more a liability. The treatment becomes a fun part of the game, but it's no more a liability. And that's when they realize that yes, even if I've given that small high-five and acknowledgement from a doctor of mine who's busy, which is there, or whatever which is there, the life changes, which is there. And tomorrow they're ready to take the world with any other issues too. So I think that is really, really essential. That small way of presenting something will actually make a change.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for both your inputs on that. As we say, a good smile can make or break your personality. So how is a person's smile connected to one's confidence, and what are the implications that a smile has, and what does a teenager go through in this phase of their life pertaining to their smile? Aditi.
Okay, I think, I basically consider, smile is like a feel-good factor. It is something, you have to understand that a child, like a teenager, she or he is undergoing multiple changes. Especially between the age of 12 to 14 to 17, they have multiple physical changes which are happening, which is there. They get up in the morning and they've got a certain pimple in their mouth in the morning, which is there, and they are suddenly gaining weight, they are having chubby cheeks. Imagine during all this period, you have your two teeth which are also popping out in a different kind of a direction. And what do? Which is there, you get up every morning, first thing that you're going to be seeing, however groggy you're going to be there, you are actually going to look at that mirror and see yourself, and the first thing that you're going to be seeing is, yes, you have these changes which is happening in your face, which is there. Let me be very frank with you, which is there, what exactly happening is, this is something which will carry down throughout the day. Somewhere or the other, they will start to hide these issues. And that is where automatically they start looking at, escapist kind of an attitude and certain kind of manners, that how can I hide these small issues like a smile or something which is not right. We are sitting in a world today which, post-corona, that you all and me are talking to each other. Imagine we were sitting in a classroom. Earlier, they used to sit in the classroom with all the backs facing, and everybody was facing, the teacher. Today, what is happening? You get up in the morning at 7:30, they have the whole classroom is looking at me, because you're all online, and the whole classroom is completely looking at you on your face, and the minute you have something which is actually happening on your face, they automatically kind of look at certain aspects. And that brings about that, that feel-good factor kind of just goes on. And which is the first eye thing? You said, okay, let's look eye into eye. What do you see eye into eye? The first thing that you're going to see is obviously the teeth. The way God has created our teeth is like, I've created something right inside your mouth which has to be uniform. The minute I actually create that uniformity onto your teeth, which is there, automatically my mind tells me that yes, please go flash it. If I have to flash something which is there, what is it adding to? It's giving me the ability that I have something which I can actually flash. Look at the teenagers today, the amount of photographs they take on social media. Look at our times. We were asked to pose. We were asked to pose for a photograph. Then came the eras of selfies. Today, do we actually think that these kids are prepared? They are prepared. I don't think. They capture unpreparedness. They want to capture all the ugly part of it. They'll be they'll be making faces, they'll be doing everything. And imagine in that small piece, if they have a well set of aligned teeth, which is there, irrespective of the fact that they are not in a prepared kind of a portion, but they have a good smile. The acceptance which basically comes from the peers, from the people which is there, is, oh great, you've got a great smile, in spite of you making a face, you've got a great smile. So suddenly you've got peer acceptance which is coming in and says 20 thumbs up or 40 thumbs up, which suddenly come onto your smile. So these small things, irrespective of the fact that however we look at it, the world looks at the smile in us. It will always come and say that. We obviously we did so much of research and everything and behind it, you won't believe it. 7 out of 10 teenagers find a defect in their smile. And these are written A.T. Nelson studies, where they say that 7 out of 10. So imagine, and they will do something to enhance it. So they are actually finding something which is wrong in their smile. Now, why are they only talking about a smile? Why aren't they talking about a small deviated nasal septum or my nose is deviated? They don't talk so much about it. But it is the focus of the eye is made into the smile. And that is why it is something what we can flaunt. The minute we are able to flaunt our smile, the mind tells us, great, you've achieved. You have peer acceptance, which is coming in, and then my behavior changes. My behavior throughout the day is much better today. And automatically I will have a relationship because my behavior is nice. So I talk to my mom in a nice kind of a manner. I am going to go greet everybody. I'm going to have a great pleasant day with my teachers, which is everything. Suddenly, is this a small feel-good factor which I developed? So these are just some things which just keep on percolating along with it. Yes, we all look at it from a smile perspective, but yes, it's just a direct link between the mind, which tells us that great, you need to obviously kind of smile to flaunt it to look great.
That's a wonderful insight, Dr. Sachdeva. I'd like to share a small incident. I was talking to Shabana Azmi ji, and she has very large front teeth, and she was nicknamed Bucktooth Shabana by the press. And for a long time, she smiled with her hands in front of her mouth. And she shared this with me, and she said it was a cause of great embarrassment. And despite the fact that she was a national award, Filmfare Award winning actor, it still made her feel like she shouldn't smile like a big smile, because she felt self-conscious. So yes, if even high achieving adults can feel that, then you can understand that how much developing, burgeoning human being would feel that. So yes, I totally agree that the eye focuses on the smile, and I think it is a hugely valuable asset. Dr. Aditi, please tell us.
So I'm going to connect it to the emotional part of the health, right? We know that when we smile, we automatically feel good from within. So show on social media with your friends, with the peer pressure that a child goes through, that is one part of it. That's the external part of it. But for everybody, each person on this webinar knows that when you smile, you feel good from within. And to an extent where the brain does not know, even if you smile fake. So if you want to feel good and connect that to the confidence, if you're feeling low in confidence, and if you just smile, even if it is fake, you know it's fake, but the brain does not know the difference. So to improve your confidence And to make yourself feel good, smile is the best weapon that we can have, and we can provide that to our child. What I just shared, you can go ahead and share with your child. Now, if, like Dr. Amit said, that if you have a crooked smile, or how Shabana ji had the issue, we see so many people around us who pretty much smile and they look down, or they'll cover their mouth, or they will just smile without actually grinning, right? And that is because of the lack of confidence which comes from maybe one tooth being crooked, or one tooth being broken, or one tooth out of place. Now, if you have teeth which are not really in a line, and they're not aligned well, then it is going to play a big role. It is going to impact your confidence directly. So that is my understanding of how we can actually look at smiling well and feeling good about ourselves, which then will improve your confidence.
I totally agree with that. I think confidence and smiling are interconnected. And actually, if you see a person, there's this very famous line which I read, that I've never seen a smiling face that's ugly. And I felt that was so absolutely true. You see people who have these beautiful smiles, and it lights up their whole face. A good smile actually makes you feel like the person's really trustworthy and amazingly welcoming and pleasant. It changes the ambience of wherever you are if you see a nice warm smile welcoming you. Dr. Sachdeva, I had a quick question to ask you on this before we move on to the audience questions. We have a wonderful bunch of people, parents, concerned parents, teen parents who are here watching the webinar. So one of the questions that I had was, what are the most common problems that teenagers and their parents come to you with?
The way, actually, I really like the fact that the way Aditi put it across, the teenagers is like a transition from a childhood to a young adult. Same way in our, how the tooth anatomy has been made, how God actually kind of told us is, you got a set of milk teeth, you finally going to have another set of teeth. Now, the child basically undergoes that transition in which certain teeth fall off and the new teeth keep on coming in. Now, what happens is, through the period of evolution, we have a lot of mixing of the face which is taking place. A lot of genes are getting mixed up. So as a result of which, the pattern of eruption, the size of the anatomy of the teeth and the size of the jaws is today all going into a mixed match. So that is why nothing goes in the right manner. The minute nothing goes in the right manner, automatically there are cavities which happen, automatically the teeth come out in a crooked kind of a manner. So that is why over a period of time, the number of kids who are having malaligned teeth has increased tremendously. So yes, today we see the maximum number of children is perpetually every 8 out of 10 kids I see, has a certain level of problem with the bite. And these problems, if they are not corrected in the formative years, can actually reduce the life of that, the tooth in the long duration. You can obviously kind of correct it at any age. I'm not saying that, but unfortunately, the best changes can only be done during the formative years. So that is why if we can actually take care of these issues with the help of providing something which is very high in technology, least painful, requires the least amount of visits in between the child, into the orthodontist, that's what we do nowadays. And that's what Invisalign does. Invisalign actually provides a technology in which we are able to visually plan the whole treatment outside, and then the patient basically carries the aligners home and keeps on changing the aligners, then virtually connecting with us, and then coming and meeting us very, very less number of times. Earlier with braces, I used to have this major issue which was there, that, who's going to tie up in between the father getting the child to the orthodontist in everybody's convenience. So you're looking at 3 people's convenience to get an appointment for the braces. And suddenly what used to happen is the child misses 1, 2, 3, 4 appointments. Now the child starts to blame the parents that you never took me for an appointment. That's why my treatment kind of, got prolonged, and I missed my 16th birthday celebration and I had braces on because you couldn't get me there. Now imagine who's established that barrier. Suddenly now they have to, whom do they blame? They don't blame the orthodontist, they blame the parents for not taking them. So can we remove all these barriers which can actually lead to even small issues in between the child and the parent in any kind of a manner. So imagine if we remove pain. They are anyway undergoing so many changes, and suddenly if I remove pain, they are more than happy. They have so many non-academic and academic achievements and work to do. They don't have time slots. I reduce their appointments. We make it easier for them to get up every morning rather than actually seeing, metal braces. You get to see a fresh smile every morning, which is there. It's a different confidence level, which is you're going to be carrying back the whole day. Suddenly, if you remove all these barriers and make it easier for the patient and the parents, both of them are happy. The parent is happy, the child is happy, and they can spend that much amount of time communicating now. And they can obviously kind of spend that much amount of time looking at other things, other issues, rather than actually keeping this portion aside. Because this will need to be done. You need to correct your teeth, which is definitely going to happen. 8 out of 10 people will need it. So it is better to pick up a simple process, which will take least amount of time, will be faster, and we are able to kind of do that. So I think that way, this is something which is very essential from a problem perspective.
No, sure. It sounds wonderful, and it sounds like a tailor-made solution for both teenagers and parents, and addresses a really, really grave concern, because I know that how much a good smile means in my profession. People are constantly talking about. Aditi would also know about that. A smile is a huge asset. So we have a bunch of questions that are already coming in from the audience. So I'm just going to ask you the first one. Chetna Mishra asks, what about the impact of peer influence on individuality? Peer influence on individuality. So Dr. Aditi, please.
Yeah, so peer, the teenage years, the way the child starts looking at the parent changes. They start confiding in their friends. So peer influence plays a very big role in establishing individuality of your child. So as a parent, know the friends. Again, I come back to the same point that communication becomes the key then, because whatever you, and I've always said this, that you are who you surround yourself with. So who are your child's friends? Keep an eye, invite the friends over. If your child is allowed sleepovers, get the children to come home and let them be there so that you are aware of who the child is surrounding himself or herself with. So it plays a very, very big role, because we know that even when we were children, when we became teenagers, we started confiding in our best friends. We stopped telling our mothers or fathers what we were doing, right? Because it's a phase. It is the developmental phase, and it's a natural phase. So don't expect your child to remain your baby after the child hits puberty. That thing, the phase is going to change. The person, that child is going to change. So allow the child to interact a lot more with friends. Just be aware of who the friends are, who he's interacting with.
Yep. Dr. Sachdeva?
Yeah, I think because peer influence is extremely high, because I'd like to just quote a small example here, which this patient came and told me, because now everything's become online. So one of the teachers the other day basically wanted to click a smiling photograph of everybody. So she said, everybody smile, and obviously, somebody in the class pointed out to this girl, not you. And imagine, you won't believe it, it impacted her so much. Literally 2 months down the line, the teacher had to actually kind of say, I do not know why your daughter keeps on putting off the camera every now and then. It's actually kind of just got into her mind that somebody around in the society or somebody, so that is why peer acceptance somewhere plays a very important part. I'm just correlating it to a smile, because I get to hear all these stories. From my experience, I get to hear all these aspects part of it, which is there. So that's when I start to correlate. I said, yes, you see, if you are accepted in the peers, from all perspectives, it is there. Obviously your confidence level is extremely high, and you're more connected with your peers than with your parents today somewhere. And you just get socially connected with your peers more. So I think acceptance is extremely important.
And I think here I would like to add is that since the topic also is confidence, that if you have the best gift that you can give your child is confidence. So it is going to happen. It happens. It's real life where you're not going to be accepted by everybody. There will be somebody who's going to insult you, somebody who's going to put you down. And this is probably the first time that the child is experiencing this in the real world, because till that time, the child is generally protected from these things, right? At that time, because they're also becoming individuals and they're trying to assert themselves, the pure insult affects them to an extent where it can leave scars for way too many years than we acknowledge. So be sure that your child is confident to handle any kind of negativity that is thrown their way. So that becomes a protective shell that you give your child, that the child can use in face of adversity.
That's a wonderful point. We have another wonderful question, Dr. Sachdeva. How do parents know if their child actually needs orthodontic treatment?
Yeah, so that's again communication. And, I'll keep on telling you, because this is again from an example which is there. I had this patient the other day. For 3 years, the patient kept on telling the parent that, I have a little inability to bite directly into apples, from the front teeth. And somewhere or the other, parents just kept on neglecting it. Or maybe the teeth are coming out, she's been maybe just a little complaining. And half the time, the parents will look at the fact, oh, you don't want to eat fruits? That's why you're complaining. Nobody actually looked into the fact, which is there, where one day she actually started to lisp, which is there. And suddenly they all realized that her front teeth were not meeting. So somewhere or the other, you have to go in for a regular checkup at the age of 9, 11 and 13. It is extremely essential because somewhere or the other, you may not be able to see the problem. You may ignore it as a thing that, it's an excuse that the child is giving. Which is there. But it is always better to take them for a regular kind of a checkup, which is there. Now we've got with Invisalign, we do virtual consults. We just obviously have the ability to take certain photographs and put it across, and we fuse them in a virtual consult, and we are able to guide you and tell you that what exactly is the problem, which is there. So somewhere or the other, a professional help is necessary here. So that's what I can like to, state.
So as I understand it, you're saying that it is a good idea, whether there is an issue or not, to actually do a consult at 9, 11 and 13 across the board, just to see if all the teeth are in alignment and if everything is as it should be. And if it is wonderful, and if it isn't, then they can opt for treatment. Otherwise, whatever minor adjustments are needed, those can be done. Yeah. So there is another question which a lot of people are actually asking, and I want to link it to the topic of today, which is self-confidence. Majority of parents are asking, how do we keep children away from gadgets, or rather than keep them away, how do we reduce the use of gadgetry? And I would like to say that this is my question too. But what happens is that, especially in the time of the pandemic, I'm a working mom, my husband's working as well. So what happens is that, when we're like, I'm in a webinar or I'm on a Zoom call. And so the easiest thing is to say, okay, go catch a movie or, sit with your iPad, and then that's what happens. So I feel that, I'm sort of asking the question and answering it too, but this is what I've noticed, that excessive use of screen is of course detrimental to their eyes and all of that, but I also feel that it reduces their ability to connect in real time. They become sort of observers of life rather than participants in life. So I feel that this is not a great thing. What are the solutions that we have to reduce usage of screen time? And how does it impact self-confidence? Dr. Aditi.
All right, so that is now the reality, especially during lockdown and this pandemic, because schools have also shifted online. So there is a certain number of hours which is mandatory for the child to be online in front of the screen, because there's nothing that one can do today. But yes, we can definitely reduce the time that the child spends on gadgets, on screens, when they're not attending school or any other classes which are being virtually held. And for that, again, I say walk the talk. How much time do you spend as a parent on screen? On the dining table, whilst you're eating food, is the phone in your hand? Are you checking your emails, your other social media platforms, and so on and so forth? So first of all, the parent needs to look at himself or herself to see, especially in front of the child, how much time are you spending on your gadget. So lead by example. Make sure this can be one non-negotiable rule in the house, that on the dining table, when you're having your meal, no screen. Because as mothers also, it's become easy to use the technology as nanny. It's the cheapest nanny that you can get, and kids love it. So you need to put in a little more effort and make sure that you're doing some activities. So give time. Again, non-negotiable, that you will not spend more than whatever time you want to give your child. It has to be age appropriate, of course. That beyond that, there is no screen time. You go and sit by yourself. Go sort out your books, do any other activity, but no screen time. Take away the phone if need be. Take away the gadgets if need be. You have to be strict where these things are concerned. So it is tough. I know there will be a lot of tantrums. There will be a lot of drama in the house, but that will last only for some time. Because what we are not understanding, today's generation, today's parents, is that what it is doing to the brain. We could sit by ourselves for hours when we were kids. Today, make the child sit for 10 minutes and they are restless. What does that mean? The attention span is reducing. What is that doing to our brain? Is anybody thinking of this? Because when we are active, when we are using our fingers, the fine motor skills have reduced. Because a mother of a 1-year-old will very proudly say that, oh, my child can swipe on an iPad. That's not something that we should be proud of at all. I would rather have a mother coming to me and saying that, oh, my child does not know how to operate an iPad. But that now has become a pride in mothers. So be very careful. Start thinking about what it is doing to the child's brain. And this is the time when the child develops quantitatively as well as qualitatively where their brain is concerned. So make sure that the child does enough activities besides the time that is mandatory or as recreational time that you want to give to the child. Be very mindful. We have it in our hands. It is our responsibility to make sure that the brains that are developing here on are robust, because we are not doing that.
Yeah. Dr. Sachdeva?
Yeah. So, it's exactly the same. You have to understand that, yes, we can't live without it and we have to live with it. So I personally believe in the fact that, we cannot live without gadgets. We cannot live without screen. The question here is, how can we actually achieve a balance? Just to give you another example, I'll be very frank with you. I keep on learning with example. So I look at my child. Now he has to spend an X amount of hours on the screen. But which is the other screen? For me, Kindle is also a screen. Today, I've made it a point to tell him that if you have to do 140 pages of Kindle, you have to do. He does an average of 250 pages. Today, if he can read at close to approximately 300, words per minute, is because I have actually given him a direction in relation to what is right on the screen and what is not right on the screen. So I think we need to balance out, because some way or the other, education will become completely intuitive and it is going to completely come on screen. We all have to accept this somewhere or the other, which is there. Everything will become visual. Today, if I'm actually doing Invisalign, it's all visual, which is there. Science and technology, we will not be able to withhold. So things will get, on that platform. Everything will become on a digital platform. It is how much of everything is what we need to understand. And that is why we need to provide them with environments which are going to be, okay, this much time for this much time for this, and this much. That's the holistic development. So that is the only way out of it. There is no other way out of it. That's my point of view, from this perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful insights, Dr. Aditi, Dr. Sachdeva. There is no question about it that boosting a child's self-confidence is very much in the hands of the parents. I think as parents, we are not just the people who birth the child, but also shape and nurture the way an individual emerges into the world. And I think one of the things which is said often enough, but it needs to be practiced more, is that how we behave in front of the child, as Dr. Aditi said. I myself am guilty of being on my phone so much. So then my child automatically gets that response that my mother is on the phone. That means this is a very desirable thing, and that they emulate you rather than listen to what you talk. They see what you're doing and they copy that. So I think mindful parenting is the need of the hour, and I think there is no bigger learning than person-to-person, face-to-face interaction. While whatever needs to be done on the screen needs to be done, I think the pandemic, hopefully, fingers crossed, will not last beyond, I think, a few months at the most. Fingers crossed. But either way, the kind of confidence and the kind of pleasure that a good smile gives both the owner of the smile and the person who's looking at the smile is undeniable. Wonderful work that Invisalign is doing with teeth for teenagers, and the way it's boosting their confidence is truly remarkable. It was a pleasure listening to this absolutely insightful conversation, Dr. Aditi. All the best for your second degree that you're studying for. Most of us don't finish one and you're on to your second one. Dr. Sachdeva, it would be such a treat to have my daughter come and meet you, because you're clearly a very kind and insightful doctor, the kind that everyone sort of reads about in books, but rarely meets in person. But you have such a kind and warm smile. I look forward to bringing my daughter to you when she hits 9, which should be in about a year's time. So please keep my one appointment for my daughter with you. So let's #transform our teens to beautiful human beings and boost their confidence with that super smile. We'll be coming live with our next webinar on the 7th of November with a new topic. So please stay tuned, and we will see you next week. Till such time, please help your team stay confident, and let's #transform our teams. Ciao from us.
Thank you so much, Triska. Thank you for joining. Bye.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Triska. Thank you, Aditi. It was very nice.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Bye.